In this video, we're going to step through SbPAM's new platform support for Azure Active Directory by creating an activity token that has global administrator rights in Active Directory. By activity token, what we mean is that SbPAM will create an ephemeral user, a user that only exists during the lifetime of the session. The user gets created, the privilege of the global administrator gets applied, and after the session, that privilege gets removed, and the user gets deleted from Azure Active Directory. This greatly reduces attack surface as the attack surface does not exist outside of the privileged session. So you can see I'm in SbPAM and I'm in my activities. I already have an activity created for activity token for Azure Active Directory. However, since Azure Active Directory is a website, we want to use the SbPAM browser extension to provision this session. So first, we're going to open a new tab. We're going to go back to our browser extension. We're going to click on the Azure Active Directory platform, and then click on the circle to provision the session for this activity token activity. With our session now provisioned, we can click on the blinking green dot, and we will be brought into Azure to log in with our activity token. So we're brought to the Azure portal, and you see that SbPAM has automatically filled in our activity token username via the browser extension. If we actually scroll over to the left a little bit, we can see here that this is the name of our activity token. So what it's comprised of is it took my SbPAM username, dpiazza, and it added some randomness to the end. So this is a unique one-time use user for an activity token session. So we go ahead and hit next, and SbPAM is also going to autofill the password for us. We click sign in, and I was able to access Azure as a brand new user without even knowing the password thanks to SbPAM. One of the first things that tips us off to know that we're a brand new user in Azure Active Directory, or in Azure in general, is that we're greeted with the product tour. Another thing that we can check is if we actually go to Azure Active Directory, we'll be able to see that we are indeed a global administrator. So SbPAM not only created the user, but also elevated our privilege. We can see here under your role that we are a global administrator. Also in the upper right, we can also confirm that we are our activity token user, again, dpiazza, with some randomness after the name. So at the end of our session, we can go ahead and click on the browser extension again, and we can click End Session. And you'll see here that the browser extension has now blocked off Azure for the user. Essentially now the session is going to be deprovisioned, which involves revoking that privilege from the user and eventually deleting the user from Azure Active Directory. If we go back to SbPAM, once the session is finished deprovisioning, we'll actually be able to view a recording of that session. So we can see here we have our completed session for Azure Active Directory, and if we hit the drop down, we have a little play button here. So we'll be able to go ahead and see everything that we've done in that session. If we click forward in, we can see now we're actually in Azure. Everything that the user did during the session was recorded for admin review and historical review purposes.